facility and it means the same thing, but we don't use the same language. And so we're gonna update the forms to make sure the language matches the policy, and then we can approve the policy from that standpoint. Right. And I want to just keep its continuing run of being the most discussed policy in Pennridge history.
Then the other two items for discussion tonight related to this policy are, there are some definitions in here of outside groups, different categories that request to use facilities. So there are outside groups that have Pennridge students as part of those groups. So what are the feelings about that from the board? And then also the third item is the use of facilities during the school year. So when the field is in use and then the public use of those facilities. What are the feelings about that?
So we dug in terms of what current practice is, just so you get a sense for what we are currently doing in this area to see whether you feel like it's reasonable or not. Obviously, the policy and the forms both talk about a delineation between who is the group. Are they a Pennridge group? Are they nonprofit? Are they making money? Are they outside? Right? So there are different fee structures, and that language is in the policy as well as in the form. And so anybody who is a Pennridge community group does use our facilities for free because they have, from a taxpayer standpoint, paid for them in terms of that piece. So that's in the policy. It becomes a little gray when you have groups that involve Pennridge students, but not Pennridge students solely. And so I experienced this in my own family from a Central Bucks standpoint in that dance studios. So there is a dance studio in Doylestown that is housed in Doylestown. I didn't do the math, but my guess is 80% of the kids are Central Bucks kids, but it's not a Central Bucks group. So the question, and they're not, so the question is, how are they treated? This policy does the same thing. This policy would talk about an outside group that is not, they don't have Pennridge in their name. They might not be completely Pennridge students. And that might be a situation where you've got a dance company. It might be a situation where you've got a travel team that is on the line and they're in Souderton. And so they might have, you name the percentage, 40%, 60% Pennridge kids, and the rest of them Souderton or Quakertown or whoever. When does it become a community group and when doesn't? How many is enough? Right? Is one enough? Is 50% enough? The policy doesn't delineate that number currently. So currently we have a conversation to try to determine that. And so that's relying on honesty. We don't ask for roles. We don't walk around on the sidelines and say, excuse me, where do you go to school? Who's your teacher? Right? And so from that standpoint, the question is, what is appropriate in terms of the will of the board, in terms of those types of groups, and what should our views be in terms of who gets a discount or in some cases free usage or not, when it's not so clear cut. So I think that's the first conversation to have, and it's not easy, which is why it's not being determined in the policy.
I'm not beginning on that.
I mean, I think 50% is a good even number. A little bit easier to calculate than 30. Like to just say, okay, you've got 20 kids on your team, these 10 of them are, within the Pennridge district. Do that.
Yeah, or you could ask them how many, like if they have 100 kids and 20 of them go to Pennridge, you could charge them 80% of the fee. That might be a little hard to figure out though. Yeah.
Well, and then they have to, and there is a verification if we do that, right?
Unless it wasn't honest, oh yeah, about 20 out of 100 go to Pennridge.
And I get what you're saying about that, but then
Right.
you end up having, inevitably, somebody takes advantage.
Right.
Somebody always takes advantage. We had two because they used to go to Pennridge, moved out of, they count. We have 20 that, graduated. You never know.
Right.
You never know. But it's a hard conversation to have.
Any history, Dr. Urinell, in terms of that conversation that you want to
Well,
have?
it's been debated, but I don't think it's ever been quantified for just the reason that you cited, right? Because we don't want to go to the event and start counting heads and
Right.
making them verify, are they Pennridge resident, are they not a Pennridge
Right.
resident, or a Pennridge student, or not Pennridge.
Right. So then
Well, you have to think about how much does it cost us, like if they're using the auditorium, how much does it cost us to have custodians here and the lights on and the air on and the heat on? How much it costs us? Do we know that number? Like how, like, Like-
There is
like an
cost in
operating
here for
cost,
those
yeah.
types of things, yes. I mean, it's obviously different in a classroom. We don't add in those costs outside of the custodian
Right.
fees for those groups that we put in the auditorium. That's why those fees are much higher.
Cause it costs money to turn the lights on.
For sure.
Crickets.
Well, we're just gathering feedback.
Yeah.
We're gonna come back, which means we'll make a recommendation around the policy and bring the recommendation to you. And
Yeah.
I think we'll have conversation and if, people can say, no, I like 49% better than 50, whatever. We can go from there.
Do we have a lot of people that are trying to use the facilities and get turn stuff away because of the cost?
The good news is, the answer is no, and there are two reasons for that. The good news is, we have a lot of community groups and these buildings are used, which is a wonderful problem to have, and so obviously our groups get the fields first. So when you're talking about use of soccer fields and baseball fields, which are the most common, it's not classrooms generally, from that standpoint. The second piece is there is no way to know how many groups don't contact us because they assume the answer is no. Right, because our policy isn't clear, they don't know whether they're, so they might look at this and say, okay, by the letter of the law, it's the highest price. Well, it's cheaper in Sourton or whatever, wherever it might be cheaper, and so we don't get a lot of requests and no's. The question will be if we delineate, will we get more requests? Because there are people who are currently not, that. But if we do make those adjustments, we are then addressing our students at least to some percentage level, right? So we are better servicing our families, which I think is the goal of using the
And then I think the last area we wanted to get some feedback about is use of facilities by the public during, if it's a Saturday and there are no school events and some people want to walk on the track or use one of the fields if there's nothing scheduled to go on. I think currently, Dr. Bolton, you shared that during the school year, some of those facilities are not available because of student use.
And we really are only talking about things that can be locked. Right, on a Saturday at Bedminster, we can't stop somebody we don't stop someone from showing up at the softball field, right? And having a family game of softball, right? And I'm not sure the policy is intended to do that. If we have outside groups, they take priority, right? People will leave. We really are talking about the track, because the track is an attractive, it is a space that is central and people know about it, and so they want to come and walk. They might want to come and experience the turf, because turf is different. Not everybody's been on it, so they want to, what is soccer like on turf? And so the question is, what is okay from a taxpayer standpoint? But then remembering, we are the keepers of unsupervised groups and individuals using that. So in terms of what we're currently doing, we currently in the summer, on Monday through Thursday, have the track open during the day, or the stadium is open during the day. So if people want to in the summer, if school is not in session, we do have it open beginning at 8 o'clock and it ends, I believe, around 3 or 4 o'clock, that it is open. And that is our personnel that's opening it, our personnel that's locking it, but that is only Monday through Thursday, because we have personnel here, there are people on site. It's not like we're using it heavy, but there are people on site, but there are no kids assigned there. During the school year, we do not open it. It's almost always being used by our people. But during the day and even at night, we have our sports teams, we have our gym classes. And so to have outside people there without clearances and supervision, the decision is made. So if we don't have a gym class out there, that is locked and people cannot use that during the school year. But in the summer, they may. The question is that appropriate? When you look across the county, it is, as we talk to our insurance agency, as turf becomes more popular and more common, more and more school districts are locking their facilities. The insurance company, there would be a hit from an insurance standpoint, even though the cameras are there, they again are reactive and they're not 100% sure to catch someone who does something wrong. Not that that's the only reason to open or not open in terms of trusting people, but from a liability standpoint, we do increase our liability if it is open on Saturday and we don't have somebody there. And so we take some of that in the summer because it's during the day, people are around, people are working, so it's not like there's nobody around and it's not the dark of night, so people are in there, those types of things. And so some of that is just the will of the board in terms of what you think is reasonable in terms of the use of that. Our current recommendation is to maintain it where we are. in terms of the summer hours and to better communicate that, although I understand that Mr. Ferry has sent out notifications to the community, at least the ones who we have access to let them know that that is available to them during the summer, people who want to come over and walk or use the facilities from that standpoint. But again, that is just our practice. So we wanted to have the conversation because the question has been raised multiple times.
Is it closed when summer school's in session here?
It is not, because our summer school is not currently using the facility. And so there would be students in the building, but
Right.
the buildings are not open.
Right, that was my
So
question.
it
And
would-
then,
yeah.
so we're talking about the track and the field. What about the tennis courts?
So the tennis courts are left open,
Oh, okay.
so the tennis courts are available during the day. Obviously, there are no lights there, and so it's not a nighttime concern. A little less in terms of upkeep and expense and maintenance, although I do
Right.
not know of any reports of where there's been vandalism on the tennis courts. I'm looking at Dr. Price. From a history standpoint, any report of vandalism that we know of from that standpoint. So it really is only the track, because in other buildings, we don't have that issue.
And have we
I don't know about
had,
Papa Yoga. That would be the only other place where we do have a fence around, and whether it's open or not, I don't know the answer to that question.
have we had any issues of vandalism in the track or on the field? Any of the concessions, have we had any problems?
No, it's been locked.
No, it's been open.
I know of one situation
Well, but
during one of
during
our
the school
own
day,
football
it's
games,
locked all,
but,
no,
you know,
for open,
Yeah,
for
there's
staffers.
no pattern of vandalism or anything back.
So if it's not broke,
And my only other question would be, I know that the turf is like rated for so long, for so much use. It's not getting enough use that it would like decrease the amount of time
Not
before we have to
currently.
fill it again.
Right, and not currently because we really are not providing so much access that there are teams coming.
Right.
When you do it during the day, you routinely, I mean, we might have a group of 6 kids who come up and play soccer
Oh.
for an hour, but
Yeah.
that's not going to.
But not, okay.
Yeah,
And
it's not
then-
gonna shorten the length of, the way we're currently doing it. there
And it would
wouldn't
only
be a
really
concern that
be
way.
June, July, because our sports teams
Yeah.
start in August.
Yeah,
And then we also rent that field out in,
year round.
yeah, but there's somebody who always uses it, a facility rental, right?
So Yellow Jackets, the biggest tournament is the Yellow Jacket tournament, that
Okay.
is at the end of the summer, and it's a 3-day.
That's what I was
And
thinking
there
about.
are people all over the, and that actually is the only outside event where we require a custodian and game manager.
oh, okay.
Because there was one question about, why do we require a custodian if they're using the grass? Because primarily Yellow Jackets, which is soccer, is using the grass fields.
Mhm.
But they are just using all our grass fields. Like, I have not been here for it, but I understand that it is.
Yeah.
Lots of teams all weekend,
Mhm.
right, a huge tournament, which is wonderful. To be able to have that facility and that space for them to be able to come and do that. We do ask them to have a custodian on site because there is a lot of trash concerns. And we do have a game manager because there are just so many moving pieces. To make sure there is some level of supervision because you have that many kids and that many people from outside the community. That is the only time. If somebody's using our soccer, like Yellow Jackets uses our soccer field on the weekends, most weekends in the spring and fall, we don't have personnel there for that. We have to do the trash on Monday morning. We don't charge them for that, but for the big tournaments, we do. Yep.
So there's no additional risk, we're not changing, we're just asking to keep it the same, correct?
That is our
The
recommendation.
recommendation keeps
Yes,
the same,
yes,
and,
from that
and
standpoint.
doing so doesn't change the risk, doesn't change the liability, doesn't change the financial impact, doesn't change the field, doesn't really affect us in any way that we can see right now. Yeah. So if it's not broken, let's not fix it.
Let's keep it fixed.
Well, yeah.
Keep it.
yeah. Like the way we're doing it isn't broken, so I think it's nice that the community can access the field during I just love that idea.
Yeah, I think that the question coming back would be, I work. And the answer might be, I'm sorry, right? That at this
Right.
point, it is not available to
Yeah.
you. If you work from 8 to 5, you're not getting on the
It's
field.
not staying open.
Right, you're
Right.
not coming at night before it's dark, and we understand
Right.
why we're not turning on the lights, from a good neighbor and a
Yeah,
cost.
but I could see like a nice walking group would wanna come and, then they have somewhere to go. I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
So we'll work on the language for the rest of the policy and send that out in advance of our next meeting to consider. So this policy will not be on the board meeting as first reading because it's not ready.
Okay.
So we'll bring that back to the next policy. Okay, then we have policy, the last policy is 916. This is volunteers. So we brought this back for first read after discussion at the last policy committee. What we did is we changed the title to read volunteers. We made some of the language more consistent throughout. And we are gonna add one additional item to this policy. It's a minor addition. So what we're going to add is where it talks about that volunteers need to have their clearances.
What page?
Page 4,
Page 4.
center of the page.
Right, so
Okay.
we are going to add, it says all volunteers must obtain new clearances every 60 months. So there's an additional form, PDE Form 6004, and that is a form that must be completed and turned in whenever there's an arrest or conviction. So if something would happen in between those 5 years of the clearances, and this is required of all employees, current employees, so we're gonna add that to this policy, just to add that additional protection in, for our volunteers, that they must complete that form as well. So we're going to add that.
That makes that consistent with our requirements for our paid, for our
Yep.
employees.
Makes sense.
And so that way there is required reporting if they were to do something that was criminal in the interim. And that can be handled as part of onboarding. It is not another onerous task. It is literally a 2-page form that says, I understand I have to do this, I promise to do this.
And then this policy would move for second read.
Yes, sir.
Any questions? So those were all of our policies. Guess there would be public comment. If we have any public comment, do we need to read the,
Well, let's just see if there's any public comment.
any public
Okay,
comment?
let's go ahead and read it then.
Want to read it?
All right. The Pennridge School Board welcomes public comment. According to policy 903, we remind everyone of the following. Public comment shall be limited to 3 minutes unless otherwise specified by the board. Participants must be recognized by the presiding officer and note their name and municipality. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer rather than to individual board members, district employees, or members of the public. A speaker may speak once during each comment period. Please note that these sessions are designated for comments. To protect the confidentiality and privacy rights of all members of our community, the board encourages members of the public to direct any comments regarding particular individuals, such as students or district employees, privately to the superintendent or other appropriate administrators or board members, or to communicate with the board and superintendent privately by sending an email to psdschoolboard@pennridge.org. Questions raised and not addressed may be followed up at a later time.
Sue Furlong, West Rock Hill Township. Sorry I'm late. I wanted to be here for the tobacco nicotine thing. My question is, and I didn't look at your volunteer policy, but on the tobacco nicotine question, what about volunteers, vendors, third-party people coming in, such as repairmen or construction people? Is there a life policy that informs them that they are not to use tobacco products or nicotine delivery products unless they're in a withdrawal program? Because I didn't see that.
Okay, do you have other?
No, that was it.
Okay.
I just felt like that I didn't see it, so maybe it got left out.
So I do know for a fact that contractors are covered. I do know that anybody, even if they're third party, that they are required and they run the same rules. We'll have to see where it's delineated for community, although it is clearly the expectation that this is a smoke-free zone. But in terms of where it's delineated, we'll have to check on that, in terms of that
Okay,
piece.
I just thought it should be.
Yep.
Any other public comment? Okay.
Well done, Dr. Ryder.
Thank you.
Does anyone need a stretch break, or can we just move on?
Hmm.